Let me say something that might sound a little uncomfortable. Jesus didn't serve everyone all the time. And if you try to, you'll burn out, blur authority, and quietly change your culture. So today, we're talking about when not to serve and how discernment protects your leadership and your witness. I'm going to give you 3 principles based on scripture that will help you serve the right way at the right time and what misapplied serving looks like. Here's the problem many Christian founders and business leaders have with servant leadership. They say things like, I'm serving, but my team doesn't seem to welcome it. I'm helping, but I'm distracted from what I need to focus on. And I'm available, but people are taking advantage. That's not kingdom leadership. That's misapplied humility, because Jesus served with clarity, not compulsion. And that difference really matters. I will be asking you questions at the end to help you discern practically. But first, let's look at how Jesus modeled serving from Scripture that may surprise you. Jesus wasn't afraid to walk away. In Mark 1:35 to 3:8, Jesus is healing people and there's no shortage of demand. And then he withdraws to pray. When the disciples say, everyone's looking for you, Jesus essentially says, we're going somewhere else. He walks away from good opportunities to stay aligned with his assignment. Serving everyone would have derailed his mission. In Matthew 27:12 to 14, Jesus doesn't explain himself. Here he is being falsely accused, and yet he stays silent. Why is that, and what can we take from it? I think it shows us that serving doesn't mean defending yourself constantly, correcting every misunderstanding, and managing everyone's perception. Sometimes the most Christ-like thing a leader can do is not explain yourself endlessly and not react to every challenge or accusation. In Matthew 23:27, Jesus confronts directly. Jesus calls out hypocrisy publicly, and that doesn't fill our soft version of servant leadership. But here's the truth. Avoiding confrontation is not Christ-like. Sometimes serving means naming the issue, correcting behavior, and protecting the culture. And silence in the face of dysfunction isn't humility, it's abdication. In Ecclesiastes 3:1, we see that there's a time for everything. There's times for washing feet, figuratively speaking, a time to pick up the towel, but there's also a time to put it down. And mature Christian leadership isn't about always serving. It's about serving at the right time, in the right way, for the right reasons. So now that we've laid the foundation using scripture, I want to share with you 3 principles servant leaders need to know. Principle 1, don't serve at the expense of assignment. Here's the first boundary. Don't serve in ways that violate your calling or your role. In business, that shows up when founders stay in operational tasks for too long. Leaders fix problems their team should be doing, and you say yes to requests that pull you from your vision. Serving that ignores assignment isn't humility, it's avoidance. And Jesus knew when to step in, and he knew when to move on. Principle 2, don't serve immaturity. This is a big one. If you constantly rescue people from consequences, lower standards to keep peace, do work other people are capable of, you're not serving, you're enabling immaturity. Jesus washed feet, but he also sent the disciples out to figure things out for themselves. And serving builds people, enabling keeps them dependent. Principle 3, don't serve what God is trying to remove. This applies directly to business culture. There are moments when a process needs to die, a role needs to change, and a relationship needs to end. And serving in those moments looks like decisive leadership, not accommodation. Jesus didn't try to preserve every structure. He overturned tables when necessary. Here are those questions I mentioned earlier in the video that will help guide you. Before you serve, ask yourself these questions. Does this align with my assignment? Will this build maturity or dependency? And am I serving out of obedience, or is there something else at play? If the answer reveals fear, guilt, or avoidance, take a pause, because Jesus never served from insecurity, and neither should you. Serving like Jesus doesn't mean saying yes to everything. It means being clear, courageous, and anchored. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do as a leader is not pick up the towel. If this helps you, share it with a leader who needs discernment, not more pressure. And I'll leave you with this. Where might your serving be preventing someone else's growth? And I'll see you in the next video.